Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast, the podcast dedicated to simplifying the commercial real estate industry for the masses. Each week, we sit down with industry experts to dissect the many facets of commercial real estate and extract valuable lessons you can apply to your business. Whether you're a new or seasoned business owner or investor, the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast will be your go-to resource for all your commercial real estate needs. Now, here are your hosts, Raphael Collazo and Jeff Walston.
Welcome to the Commercial Real Estate Academy podcast. I'm your host, Raphael Collazo, here with my co-host, Jeff Walston. How's it going, my friend?
It is going amazing. End of the business week, not end of the work week, but everything's moving along swimmingly and grateful for it. 2022 is looking brighter and brighter, and I believe it's going to be a big year in all aspects of business out there. What about you? How are you doing over there, Raphael?
Doing great. I think similar to you, I think 2022 is going to be a very robust year in the brokerage space as well. We've been getting a lot of activity on our end. As far as things that we're up to this weekend in particular, similar to you, I'm going to be working on some stuff. For those of you guys who don't know, Jeff and I have a call every week where we talk about different things we're going to be doing for our development company, Fidelity Development. And one of our action items was to try to get a system process written out. And so that's probably what I'm going to be working on this weekend. So during our Sunday call, we can go over it and get that squared away. But speaking of productive and engaging conversations, we had Jeremy Neuer, who's an executive vice president at CBRE in New Jersey. I mean, this guy is just an absolute rock star. We had a really good conversation with him pertaining to office real estate in particular. And then also we touched on technology and how it's going to impact the commercial real estate industry going forward. But starting out, what we talked about was how he got started in the business, what got him interested in commercial real estate, and some of the struggles he faced early on. And if you're a broker, especially if you're early on in your career, I think you're getting a lot of insights from his experiences in starting off in the retail space and then eventually transitioning over to the office leasing and ultimately on the sales side of office buildings. And he's done, almost $1 billion, I think even more than $1 billion in real estate sales. So it's unbelievable what he's been able to accomplish in his career. Along with that, he talked a little bit about some of the struggles or that owners of office real estate deal with pertaining to trying to attract top tenants into their space, and then what some of the tenants are actually doing in order to attract better talent to the workplace. Because again, we understand that COVID has impacted the office industry significantly, and that in order for them to be able to maximize and retain top talent, there's certain things you have to do with the office space in order to encourage people to come back to the office. And then finally, we touched on, again, the technology piece of things, both on the brokerage end. So getting a feel for what technologies are coming down the pike that help you able to do your job better. And also on the landlord side, what are some of the things that tenants are going to demand in the future so that, if you in fact want to own office buildings and as an investment, things you're going to have to consider. Because as more and more tenants start demanding these types of amenities and being able to interact with the building, you have to be ahead of the curve when it comes to that. So again, I found the conversation extremely insightful. You could tell that he is a very giving person. And again, I thought it was just a great conversation. Jeff, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just that good all around guy, and that he is actually stays on top of his game. He's been in the CRE for quite some time, and he's seen all different aspects of it and been in all different situations, worked with national businesses across the US and helped everyone. But one thing that I took away from it is like he wants to be at the top. So he's gonna look for the newest thing and the better thing and keep striving to do the best so he can give to his clients. And that's what I like you said, Raphael, he's a giver at heart, and it seems like, and that's what he does to his clients. And that's why I think he's just so successful.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. You could just tell that he's passionate about best serving his clients. And that means being on top of the curve at everything. And so, yeah, I think you guys are going to gain a significant amount of value from this conversation. Along with that, we just want to thank you guys so much for being so supportive of the podcast. It really means the world to us. And part of being supportive for the podcast is leaving 5-star reviews. We've had many of you leave 5-star reviews, and it's made a huge impact in the amount of downloads we receive on a week-to-week basis. So if you guys don't mind quickly going to Apple Podcasts and leaving a 5-star review, that would be super helpful. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel because it really helps with spreading the message and making sure that more and more people learn about the commercial real estate industry. So thanks again so much for your feedback and support. And let's go ahead and dive right into the episode. Well, hey, Jeremy, great to see you today. It's almost the weekend, so I'm sure you're excited about that as well.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, glad to have you come on. It's an honor.
Sure. No, it really is. I mean, it's impressive what
if
Jeremy's
you guys
doing.
are honored, you got the wrong guy.
Nah, I'm telling you, man. We've seen.
Did you think you have my father or something? I don't know. What do you got?
No, but we've seen a lot of the stuff that you've done just through your LinkedIn and everything. And that's actually how we got connected, was through LinkedIn. So, again, Jeremy is a wealth of knowledge, especially pertaining to office. And I mean, we're really excited to dive in and learn a little bit more about your background and your story. And so what we typically do when we first interview people on the podcast is we like to learn a little bit more about them. So if you don't mind kind of sharing a little bit of your backstory, I think that'd be helpful.
Sure. It's not been a straight line. So the easy answer is I spent the first 18 years of my career in office leasing, specializing in representing tenants and landlords, both locally and nationally. And so had a very national practice with major corporate accounts. Also had, as of 5 years ago, about 5 million square feet in the state of New Jersey on the landlord side that I represented. And there was an opportunity to move to the sales side of the business in the capital markets and join my now partner, Jeff Dunn, and his team. And I raised my hand and the company said, "We really like you where you are. Why don't you stay where you are?" And I said, "Well, I really would like to learn new things and develop new skills. And if you don't want me to do that, then maybe this isn't the right home for me anymore." And they said, no, we love you. We want to keep you. Why don't you go talk to Jeff? And Jeff and I partnered up about 5 years ago. And I've been able to, in the last 5 years, move into, 100% the sales side of the business. And it has been an unbelievable learning experience. Really have grown in a lot of ways professionally. And so again, not a straight path to where I am, but a fun path nonetheless. And so, whereas my practice used to be, coast to coast, and I've done deals really in places that I never thought that I would get to visit in the last part of my career, or I should say in the previous part of my career. Now we're hyper local focused. So my team now is 17 people. We specialize in the sale of office, multi, retail, a little bit of industrial in the suburban tri-state market. So everything that is what I would call a 2-hour drive from Manhattan, but not the 5 boroughs. And so we are hyper focused locally. I'd spend most, if not all, of my time in New Jersey, focused primarily on office, but I also do a little bit of multi and I help out a little bit on the retail side, mostly on the business development end.
That's amazing. No, and I think the linear path that you described, I feel like it describes a lot of people. They don't necessarily have a linear path when it comes to real estate. I came from a software background. I'm an engineer by trade and got into the brokerage business a couple of years ago. And so I think that's kind of indicative of a lot of people, whether you start your career with one particular brokerage or you branch off into another brokerage or whatever else. I feel like any successful career long-term is going to have a lot of twists and turns. And so it's kind of indicative of the people that we've interviewed over the last several months. So
I also think it's indicative of where we are as a workforce and a society. My former business partner spent the first 31 years of his career at one firm doing the same thing. And my current partner has been with the same company for 37 years. And so now we're doing the same thing. And I think that now the average lifespan of somebody at one company is 3 years. The millennial workforce is very transient, and it relays into other places. And so I certainly wish I was a millennial. I'm not. I've been at CBRE now for 11 years, and I don't foresee myself going anywhere anytime soon.
Amazing.
Yeah. So I kind of want to get to the very beginning here. What got you interested in commercial real estate?
So if you want to go back there,
the card game, right?
We're going to go back to 1998.
Okay.
which means that I'm really old. And in 1998, I was in the restaurant business. I worked for my mother and my uncle and my grandparents in the restaurant business down the shore. And I realized pretty quickly that the restaurant business is for crazy people. And while I might be crazy, I wasn't that specific brand of crazy. And I had been there for a couple of years and decided that I wanted a different kind of life. And I wanted to be in an industry that provided me with upside, that if I excelled, I could go fast, as opposed to, kind of working my way up the corporate ladder kind of thing, right? And so I looked around for a little bit, didn't really find anything. My father is a corporate real estate attorney. He said to me, go meet with my friend who runs Cushman and Wakefield. And I said, where's the office? And he said, East Rutherford. And I said, no, I'm not going. I was living in Belmar at the time. I said, that seems like it's over an hour away. I'm looking for a different quality of life. No good. Kept looking around, didn't really find anything. Then my father says to me, go meet with my friend Joe Romano. He's done a lot of things in real estate. He'll just guide you to see if there's anything about real estate that interests you. In an hour, Joe offered me a job and I took it. And I started at Grubb & Ellis in November 2nd, 1998. I started as a retail focused leasing broker, made no money my first year. Realized that everybody in the office, they used to put out a list of who the top guys were in the office every month. And all the top guys every month were office leasing guys. And so I'm like, why am I doing retail?
Retail.
The guys making all the money are doing office. Like, and by the way, and they email me the list every month. Like, they email you a hint. Here's your hint every month. So I used to go to lunch with these three guys every day, one of whom was my mentor in retail, and two of whom were office leasing guys. And they said to me, we're so busy, we have no time to do anything else other than what we're doing. And we have this assignment that's really, I almost cursed, caught myself. We have this assignment that's really challenging and we don't have the time to work on it. Yeah. Will you work on it with us? And I said, sure, I got nothing but time. Mm-hmm. And I worked with them on the disposition of the Thomas and Betts sublease at 1001 Frontier Road in Bridgewater, New Jersey. And we subleased that space. And it was my first real decent size office deal. I worked on an office deal, but the first deal I closed was on behalf of, it was a call center deal in South Plainfield, New Jersey. And so I've done, like I said, everything in between, coast to coast. So when I started working with them, I started working on a corporate account right away. My big value add on that corporate account was I had a computer and I knew how to answer email. And so when you want to talk, Jeff, about going back to the beginning, when I started Grubb & Ellis, it was so long ago, they did not give me a computer as part of my toolkit. Like if I brought my own computer from home. So if I wanted a computer on my desk, I had to provide my own. So I did, because I felt that, I was proficient in the computer and there were skills that I had learned at, being in school, in college, or things you had to learn. And I knew how to work the computer better than anybody else in the office. And so they needed somebody to work on a corporate account. They had a very high maintenance client who, when an email came in, it needed to be answered. And so they basically said to me, like, sit at your desk. And when that woman emails you, you run into our office. We'll tell you what the answer is. And then you go back and type it. And so that was part of how I got into the business and how I got into doing deals. And in the late 90s, the .com bubble had not yet burst. And there was a lot of, deals were easy to find. Space wasn't easy to find. Then the .com era burst, and then deals weren't easy to find, but space was easy to find. And so I learned in a great market what it was like to do deals. And then I learned in a tough market what it was like to find deals. And having those two skills, I think one of them is more important than the other, because you can always find a guy who knows how to do a deal, but you can't always find a guy who knows how to get a deal and find a deal. So I spent 2.5 years at Grubb & Ellis, ended up coincidentally moving to Cushman and Wakefield in June of 2001, joined my former partner, Joe Sarno, and we had a 15-year partnership that was wildly successful. And we moved to CBRE in February of 2011. And that takes you back to the beginning and gets me here. So it's been a fun road, but it started as a retail leasing broker. The first year in the business, I made $5,500 gross commissions, which means I made $2,750 net. And the only reason why I made $5,500 was because one of those office leasing guys that I have mentioned before, Ray Somer, who recently passed away, may he rest in peace. Ray got a call from somebody to do 55 BOVs, and they paid $100 each, and Ray wasn't going to do it. And so it involved driving all over the state of New Jersey with, at the time, you had those like little throwaway cameras, like you would take a picture and then you had to give it to the place to get it developed. I had to take 3 pictures of each property and fill out a form. And for each of those, I got paid $5,500. It probably cost me $200 in gas. It took me 3 full days, and I had to print out on paper the MapQuest maps, or the whatever it wasn't even, there was no Google Earth at the time. There was no Google Maps, right? Like I had to print out a big stack of paper, how to get from one property to the next, the mapping of this project took me like almost like a full half day just to figure out how to get from one to the next. And it was, that was my first money I earned in real estate. And there's a Bruce Springsteen quote where he says, you know, and I made, it was the first $5 I ever made, and it was the best money I ever made, except for all the rest. And so that $5,500 was probably the hardest money I made, except for all the rest.
Funny, that's amazing. And it kind of goes to show the struggle you go through initially when you first start within the business. I mean, similar to you, I mean, I made very little money my first year in the brokerage business, and subsequent years obviously have done better than before, which is amazing. But that first year weeds out a lot of people because they're just not, you know, they get disheartened and they don't know. Yeah.
Listen,
Go ahead, I'm
sorry. I am passionate about our young people, because I remember what it was like to be that guy who, frankly, I had a $15,000 a year draw when I was at Grubb & Ellis. I don't know how necessarily I survived on $15,000 a year, other than by amassing massive credit card debt, which I was lucky to get out of. But we eat our young in this business. We churn through people in the first few years. And when I had a blog, I don't have one anymore, but when I had one, I had a recurring series of advice for young brokers and it would be anybody from Derek Jeter to Bruce Springsteen to, you know, The Godfather, whatever it was, like something out of pop culture, but something wrapped into how do I give a piece of advice to young people and make it relatable so that they can understand it, because we don't do a great job of training, because brokers do. They don't teach. And so you can only necessarily teach maybe the same way that you learned. And so we don't do a great job of figuring out best practices for training people. And the last guy that I trained on the leasing side of the business, I had this crazy idea that we weren't going to let him make any phone calls for the first 6 months. And I went to my partner and I told him, he said, I'm going to make it clean. He said, well, if he's not going to make phone calls, what's he going to do? And I said, he's going to learn the business. He's going to shadow me. He's going to learn how to show space. He's going to learn the lingo. He's going to learn how to do a deal, but he's not going to cold call, because anybody that he gets a meeting with is not worth our time. anybody that will meet with someone who doesn't know anything about the business isn't somebody like, I don't care how great you are on the phone. There's no way that you know how to qualify somebody if it's a good meeting or a bad meeting in the first 6 months of your existence. And by the way, I still run into a problem once in a while where I don't do a good job 23 years later of qualifying somebody to figure out if it's worth my time or not worth my time to meet with them. And so I did it a little different. I can say that this guy would have been wildly successful anywhere he went, any which way he was trained. He's so great. Matt Wassel was just named a principal at Saxon Real Estate. Again, he would have been wildly successful wherever he was and however he got started. He's very kind in that he says that the training that he got from us, from Joe and from me, was integral in his development. And I don't take any credit for his success, but I do think that it was a different way to train. And I think that it's a way that would provide younger people with a better chance of learning the business. Frankly, if I just hand somebody the phone book and say, go make calls, like, that's one skill set. And I don't feel like it's the best skill to learn right away. So again, I think that there is a lot of attrition. I think that it could be avoided. And I think it could be avoided.
No, for sure. Yeah. And I found myself in a similar position early on where it was just like, okay, we have access to these databases. There's some phone numbers, there's buildings, and it's like, just start dialing, and you have your count every day, and you really know what to say. You're just kind of working your way through a conversation. And a lot of times you just feel stuck, and it's just like, oh my gosh, what's going on? And a lot of that can be disheartening. And not only that, but similar to what you're saying, qualifying people. I've worked with people in the past where it's like, I work with them for several months, and after a while you feel like you're just spinning your wheels. And that can also be disheartening. And I feel like, I think the training piece is very underappreciated within this industry. But there's also something to be said about, the motivation play as well, because, you can't let these types of obstacles stop you from whatever you want to accomplish. And again, everyone has their own goals. Everyone has their own aspirations. But if you truly believe in what you're doing, then, you got to push through it. So
100%.
Yeah. So one thing I want to talk to you about, and on the investment side in particular, is in the office space. And so what are some of the pitfalls you see investors make when they're looking to acquire some office investment opportunities?
Well, look, any investment that you make, irrespective of whether it's real estate, something else, buying a stock, buying an NFT, Bitcoin, whatever you want to call it, right? If you don't do your homework, how successful you're successful by accident, right?
Yeah.
And so we do see people, committing to a number, committing to a property before they know everything about the property, before they know everything about the market, before they know everything, like, why is the tenant leaving? Why did this tenant come in? My job is to represent sellers. So for me, if a buyer is not educated, I'm okay with that. My fiduciary responsibility is to get the seller the most amount of money at the closing table. That is what I want. I want to get to the closing table. I want a successful deal. And if the guy doesn't ask any questions along the way, like, okay. I've often said that there's a lot of people in our business that could make a lot of money representing the buy side, but they would be talking people out of a lot of buildings, and the seller, and the sellers would hate them. It's like the guy who plays craps and plays the no pass line. Like that guy's no fun.
No one likes him. No one likes that guy.
He might make money. He might be grinding it out, but nobody likes that guy. My grandfather did that, and he nobody liked it. It was just bad form. So look, what buyers, and by the way, like you said earlier, everybody has their own goals and own reasons, right?
Yeah.
Some people are looking for generational wealth. Some people are looking to make fees along the way. Some people are just looking to place money because it's coming from one bucket to another, from a business, from an operating business to something more passive. Office is capital intensive. Sometimes people who don't understand office don't understand that it's capital intensive. And I think in our market, and I just had I just had lunch with a partner from a major architecture firm, and we kind of were talking about like what's driving the office market right now. It's flight to quality. So right now, you really have to understand the trend. To me, the trend right now is really simple. Thankfully for me, the trend is every tenant that's in the market, everyone has one thing in common. They all want their people back in the office in some way, shape, or form. Okay. So if you take that and you say, okay, well, how do they get people back to the office? Because if you're taking new space, clearly you're committed to the office in some way, right?
Yeah.
So how do I get my employees back? I got to go to better building. I got to go to better amenities. I got to build cooler space. I got like something to use my space as an attraction and retention tool for talent. So the better buildings are what's winning. And some people are saying, you know what, I'm going to buy the building and I'm going to chase the bottom. I'm going to chase the bottom. I'm going to just charge a lower rent and I'll win. And I keep telling those people, as you're playing the wrong game. I want to chase the top. If I'm buying a building right now, I want to chase the top. I want to figure out how I can improve my asset, what kind of amenities I can add. How do I pull in amenities from the neighborhood? How do I bring in food trucks or something to make me stand out and be cool? If I know I have a big tenant that's coming to see my building on Tuesday, you better believe that on Tuesday, I'm going to have some kind of action going on, right? Some kind of something to make it, because they're seeing 6 buildings. I got one shot to stand out. They're seeing 6, 8, maybe 10, who knows, right? But I'm going to stand out. And so I'm chasing the top because I can list tenant after tenant after tenant in the state of New Jersey that paid more in this market, in this post-COVID market where you would expect deals to be available. They're paying more money to be in better buildings because they realize that at the end of the day, it's still a war for talent. It's still, if I lose that guy to my competitor, it's going to take me 6 months to find a guy who's just as good and 3 months to train him after that. And I got 9 months of downtime and I should have just kept the guy who was talented in the first place. Right. Yeah. So where are we locating? Are we locating near millennial hubs? Because that's really who everybody wants right now, right? Is that millennial workforce? Am I going to Morristown? Am I going to Hoboken in Jersey City? Am I going down the shore to Monmouth County? Where am I locating to hit the workforce that I want? And do those jobs need to be in certain markets? I have one client, keep telling him, like, I don't know why you have these people in New York City. That is not a talented workforce that you have working for you. Put those jobs in a cheaper labor market. You save more money than you could ever save on real estate. So, like you said, what's the goal? By the way, I just realized that was the longest answer to a short question that I could have possibly given you.
No, but it's.
Am I getting paid by the minute here? Am I getting paid by the word?
Exactly. You pay by the downloads, right? That's the insights you provide via the downloads.
I'll say if I'm getting paid by the download, I'm going to say some controversial stuff.
There you go.
That's what's coming.
No, you are right though. Because I'm a commercial GC, so a lot of people are actually going and taking their office space and just totally revamping it. It's going towards like some of these places that are being designed and I'm building are like boutique hotels when you walk in. And they're like their co-center of your working space. It's like couches and lounges, and it's amazing. But that's how you're going to attract, like you said, the younger workforce, and the ones that are just getting out of college and they're eager to learn, and they're coming in, and they're going to go towards that direction. They're not going to go to your typical office space that it's just not going to happen. So
yeah.
If you look at how, look, Matt, to his credit, we talked about this. She's 6-7 years ago. He went to Rutgers for recruiting day, where they had a job fair kind of thing. And he said, if you look at how they work in the library, they all work in teams. Nobody is working by themselves. They're all working in teams. So it's being driven by education. It's being driven. And now you talk about, like what you said, hospitality, right? How are we interacting with the built environment in a way that provides that kind of collaborative environment that people want? Because if you're going, listen, I don't have to go to the office to have a quiet place to work. I don't have to go to the office to have my tools anymore. What I go to the office for is the people that are there. Yeah. So what is the kind of environment that's going to allow me to interact with the people the best? That's what I'm looking for. And I think that CBRE for a long time has been ahead of the game and ahead of the curve. And we partner with Gensler on our space for a long time. And we built our headquarters space in LA years ago as free address. And the lobby area that you would call a lobby was called the Heart. Why was it called the Heart? It looked like a hotel lobby. It was where people would come together. The whole coffee setup was there. The snack setup was there. There was soft seating. People would have meetings. And the guy who ran that office, Andy Ratner, to his credit, he didn't have, because it was free address. He didn't have an office. He would sit in the Heart all day. I said to him, I go, how do you get anything done? Aren't your people like bugging you all day? He goes, the first day they did, the second day they did, and the third day they left me alone. He says, they know where to find me though. If they need me, I'm here in the Heart. And guess what? I see all my people. I see who's working. I see who's here. I see who's not here. I see how much time they're spending getting coffee. So I'm able to watch my people in a different way because I'm sitting in the Heart. And by the way, when people bring people in, it's impactful if the guy who's running the shop, so to speak, is there to greet them. Clients are coming in, I'm here to say hello. And so, I'm not behind a closed door in a corner office somewhere. So it led to a better experience. And frankly, I visited that LA office when it first opened. Lou Horn, who runs the West region, who's a friend for a long time now, Lou said to me, Jeremy, you need to come visit. And I said, Lou, with all due respect, I have 5 floor to ceiling windows in my office. If you come take my office, I'm going to chain myself to my desk. He said, Jeremy, come visit the LA office. And I promise you, you'll want to give up your office the next day. And he was 100% right. I visited that LA office. And the next morning I called my boss, Jeff Hipsman, and said, we got to build free address in East Brunswick because that's what the future is. That's what's going to help us get the talent that we want in the door. And so I believe in really adopting the space to the kind of people that you want rather than adopting the people to the space.
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I have one of our friends that's within our networking group we're a part of. They're at an accounting firm. And I remember I went to meet him at the accounting firm, and it's literally the most dreary environment I've ever seen in my life. It's like from the 70s. They have wallpaper on the walls. And I'm like, how in the world are you going to attract someone who's 23, 24 out of college to want to come work for your accounting firm? And they're having trouble recruiting people. And I'm like, one of the biggest reasons you're probably having trouble is because you're in this dingy, gross looking office. And no one, every time you come in for an interview, it's like, no, thank you. I don't appreciate this. So
there's a law firm here. They moved from a dreary space to a brand new space. It is hot. Okay. Their lounge or coffee, whatever, it looks like Central Perk from Friends, right? Like they created this really cool space. And you know what they told me? That they were able to not only recruit better people, but pay them less because people just want, listen, the world is about supply and demand. Okay. That's the whole world, right? All of a sudden they have more demand to come to their firm, right? There's the supply is up, they can back off a little bit on what they pay people. So they were paying their starting associates less and getting better people because their space was hot. It's an investment. It's an investment. I say, I use the quote all the time. What if we invest in our people and they go? Or what if we don't invest in them and they stay?
100%.
Yeah.
So you want the mediocre people? Maybe have the mediocre space.
Absolutely.
Wallpaper.
Wallpaper. The wallpaper people. So I want to get back on the technology thing that you said that you brought your computer there, but I want to know, like, what are the unique technologies you're seeing like owners use to implement within their properties?
So what you guys maybe do know or don't know about me is that I was one of the very first early adopters of tech in the brokerage world. I was screaming it from the rooftops years ago. There used to be a conference called CRE Tech Intersect. I was the only guy there in a tie. I was probably the most successful broker, which is a sad state of affairs for that conference. And I was probably one of the oldest guys in the room. And now when you look at tech conferences in the real estate space, there's thousands of people. The least important people are the guys wearing the ties. And there's tech tools out the wazoo, billions, literally billions of dollars, VC money, private money being poured into research and developing the latest and greatest tech that there is. And so if we were going to have that conversation, Jeff, about, who's doing what, that's really cool, like that's a 6-part episode, it's a 6-episode mini series. Then I got to bring my buddy Mike Beckerman in, and he's really the guru of all that is CRE tech, and we could go through all the really cool things. I can tell you that I think maybe it was more interesting than that is, for the tech people out there, I used to take, when I was on the leasing side of the business, I used to take a demo every Friday at 3:00. That was my time. I was like demo time. I'd get all these calls because I've made some investments into some, I guess they call angel investments into some different companies. And so Friday at 3:00 was demo time. And I would start the demo by saying the same thing every time. Here's what I want you to tell me. If your service can help me deliver better service to my customers, my clients, or if it can help me save time, or if it can help me make more money. And by the way, if it does the first two, it definitely does the third. Okay. Yeah. Better service, save time, more money, then I'm interested. If it doesn't do one of those things, we can end the call now. Okay. And so what a lot of people 5, 8, 10 years ago would ask me, when will we have full adoption on tech in corporate real estate? Because we're a lag. Okay. We are a lagging industry. When will we have it? It's very simple. When the tenants demand it. Okay. When the tenants say, Mr. Landlord, I will not come to your building if you have an inferior tech stack. Mr. Landlord, I will not come to your building if I can't get Wi-Fi to work. Yeah. Mr. Service Provider, doesn't matter which service provider it is, whether it's a brokerage firm, an architecture firm, if your tech stack doesn't match up to your competitor, I'm going to choose the competitor. The tenant is the ultimate buyer of service in our business. Okay. Because, but not for the tenant, the landlord doesn't make any money. The landlord can't pay the broker. The landlord can't pay the architect, the landlord, and on and on and on and on. Right. It all comes from the money, the tenant paying the money. And by the way, in multifamily, same thing, right? If for some reason somebody's got a better mousetrap, they're going to win. And a lot of times right now, that mousetrap is tech. And so it's going to be, it's access control systems. But really, Jeff, I think that if I had one, you said to me like one bullet, man, like give me one bullet. What? Oh, you can't see it because of my background.
Cell phone. For those guys who are listening on podcasts.
How do I interact with your building using my phone? Okay. Yeah. So how do I do that? Whether it's access control, whether it's accessing amenities, whether it's accessing a curated community, okay, bringing in things from the outside, okay, how do I do that through my phone? Because I guarantee you this, not a lot of people passing through the door without a cell phone in their pocket. or in their hand, stuck to their face, whatever it is, right? So it's really figuring that part of it out. And there's a lot of companies doing great things behind the scenes, but really the front facing thing is, how do I interact with the built environment through my cell phone?
That's amazing. And we actually had the honor of interviewing Michael Beckerman a while back too. So we had a lot of great insights.
That's an honor.
Technology.
That's the big beard and the whole thing,
yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. And I actually went to the CRE Tech conference this last year in New York City too. So I got to see a lot of the newer technology coming down the pikes. Jeff and I were talking about some of the construction technology. There was one company there that was just unbelievable. It flies a drone into the air and then like plots out a parcel, and then you could flip through templates. So like imagine like a Marriott has like all these different layouts of different hotels. You could literally just flip through the template and determine the feasibility based on the topography and whatever else. I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so
Good
cool.
thing we didn't meet each other then, though, because I, unbeknownst to me, had COVID that day.
Oh, you did? Oh, wow. I'm sorry. Well, you feel better. Yeah.
Good thing we didn't meet that day.
Exactly. But we have the opportunity to meet now. But you're right. Yeah. I think that's a unique, that's definitely a unique insight pertaining to office technology going forward. And another thing that's kind of interesting to me, and I don't know if you have any opinions on this at all, is when we were interviewing Michael Beckerman, obviously he's very passionate about the impact commercial real estate has on the environment. And, I think he was telling me, and again, I didn't verify this in other sources, but I'm sure Michael knows what he's talking about. He was saying like 60% of the carbon emissions or something are pertaining to buildings themselves. And you would think transportation, because everyone's always saying like, we need to go, electric and whatever else that's going to save the planet. But in reality, like buildings produce so much carbon emissions that in fact, it's amazing.
So there's a developer based here in Jersey, Souther Companies. They're building in different parts of the Southeast industrial, and they're using a concrete that is better for the environment than typical concrete. Okay. That puts up, that is really friendly for the environment. Now, if you'd said to me 6 months ago, before I read Daniel Suther's LinkedIn post, and by the way, like, you should have him on to talk about it, because I'm not an expert, but clearly he is. So Daniel Sudler posted on LinkedIn about, the form of concrete that they're using and the way that they're building the building. And it kind of blew my mind, right? Like, wait, not all concrete's created equal. Like, okay, well, maybe that's obvious to some people, but clearly, an office guy, not so much. But no, Mike is 100% right. The built environment is really the culprit in a lot of ways. And how, I recently put a slide on ESG in one of our pitches, because CBRE has a commitment to ESG. And my partner said, do we really need this? Like, I said, yes, 100%. Why? Because the publicly traded company that we're meeting with, in their last quarterly report, had a paragraph on ESG. So we need to address it. We need to be smart around that. And we need to talk to the people within CBRE who are smart about that. We need to talk to Mike, because Mike is the expert on climate tech and how that works, and what we can do going forward to be not only successful, but to be successful and good citizens at the same time. And so I think you're going to see ESG really be a bigger part of the conversation. You're going to see climate tech part of the conversation. And so to me, might be worth having Mike on again, because he's my guru, and he was my guru long before he had that beard. I'll tell you that. I remember when he had hair, so it is a different kind of thing. But I would talk to Daniel Sudler about the concrete, and it to me, look, the other part of it is, you did mention the transportation. I'll tell you that Andy Cohen, who's the co-CEO of Gensler, has like a ridiculously smart presentation on driverless cars, autonomous vehicles, and how they interact with the built environment, and how that's going to be a game changer going forward. And I think that the one thing that I know is that we're coming into a time when tech is going to really become more, it's going to snowball. It's going to snowball.
More integrated in society for sure.
Yeah. And look, my joke was years ago, like, the Beatles changed music from 1964 to 1970. It was really a short amount of time. Okay. It's really a short amount of time. And Love Me Do sounds absolutely nothing like Strawberry Fields. Okay. I Want to Hold Your Hand does not sound like it was written by the same band that sang Let It Be. Okay. Let's just call it what it is. Right. So it changed, but it changed every time they put out an album. Every 6 months, it was like a new sound. Tech now is changing so fast. When I was growing up in the business, Microsoft Word came out in 2002, and then you got nothing until 2004 when they put out a new version, right? Like when I was doing business with VTS 6 years ago, I would call them and say, guys, I need you to make this change. And in 24 hours, they would call me and say, hit refresh. And the change was made to the software. Like, yeah, we're doing it that fast. Like, I want the button moved from here to here. Oh, that'll take 5 minutes. All right, I want this to work this way. Can you make this formula do this? 24, 48 hours, done. Right? Navigator, who I do business with now. Guys, the template doesn't work for me how I needed to interact with my clients. Can you change the template for me? Sure. Here's what it looks like. Make these 3 changes. Okay, hit refresh, done. So we're going fast. We're going fast. Yeah. It's going to continue to snowball. Now, so, we might be past that 1970s Beatles thing, right? Where, it might all look a little similar as we go forward, but we're getting into a place where it's all going to change, and we're going to see punk rock, and we're going to see disco, and we're going to see it all come in tune. And it's going to be, there's going to be a tech party going on in real estate really soon.
Yeah, amazing. No, we really do appreciate your insights, and I think, like you said, as people that are in tune with that start getting into play, I think it's going to be amazing to see the change that we experience over the next several years. So,
by the way, the good news is you've got guys at major institutions, not entrepreneurial shops, major institutions, CTO, CIO meaning Chief Information Officer. Right? We didn't have these jobs 5-10 years ago at major landlords. So now the major landlords are saying, I got to give the tenants the tech stack that they're going to demand. I got to be socially responsible with how my buildings interact with the environment. I got to do all these things. And by the way, it's not some guy sitting in a room making 50 grand or 60 grand who's like, I have an idea. Like I'm the AV guy. No, it is a C-level person who's in the room with other C-level people saying, this is how we're going to run our business. And so that, to me, is how you make real change. And that's what's going to happen it's happening in our industry.
It's amazing feedback and amazing advice. So, first off, we just want to thank you for taking the time today to be able to speak with us. Again, you've done so much in your career, and you have so many insights to be able to share with our audience. So we really do appreciate the time. One thing we like to ask our guests.
Got a long road to go. You talk about me like I'm the old guy.
No, not at all.
The turn, brother.
There you go.
I'm making the turn. I'm going from the 9th hole to the 10th hole. I got plenty of room to go.
There you go. No, of course. And again, that's why we're appreciative, because you're showcasing what's possible as well. And I feel like there's a lot of people out there that, listen to our podcast that get inspiration and insight from people who have been in the business and they've had success in the business, and they're also leaders within the business. Because I think that's ultimately what a lot of people want to be. Is and especially if you're an ambitious and you want to maximize your potential, you want to be able to see how other people have been running their lives over a period of time, so that you can kind of mimic that in your own life. So one thing we like to ask our guests near the end of our podcast is, what was one of the most impactful books that you've ever read? And it doesn't have to necessarily be real estate related. It could be something unrelated to that. I know for Michael, it was he had recommended Man's Search for Meaning, which is a very impactful book that was very much a one for him. So I don't know if you have one in particular that you found extremely insightful.
The answer is yes. I'm not frozen. I'm just trying to think. So the answer is there are a couple of books. If you bear with me 1 second, I want to look up the author of this book, because if I mention the name and not the author, I'm not doing anybody a good service here. So, but I've given out. I've probably given out 50 copies of this book, because it speaks to me in a way that I think, and it speaks to what some of us don't do in this business, which is really listen. Okay. So many people get on the phone, especially when they're young, and they say, I have this proposition and you need to hear it. And I got on the phone with this guy a couple of weeks ago, and he wanted to pitch me on something. And he kept saying, he was pitching me. He didn't care who I was. He had a canned speech, and it was like, pull the string and the words came out, right? And I'm like, whoa, brother. I'm not buying what you're selling. I got no interest in that service. Like really none. We had 15 minutes blocked, and I said, we're done after 3. Okay. Because I'm not buying what you're saying. You want to talk to me about me and what I want? That's one thing. So again, it goes back to that qualifying thing. But there's a book called The Go-Giver by a guy named Bob Berg. And if you guys, when this thing is over, if you send me your address, I'd be more than happy to send you each a copy. And anybody listening to this podcast, I'm going to make an offer. The first 10 people that send me a note on LinkedIn that ask me for the book, I will send you send me a copy. You send me your name, your address, I will send you a copy of the book, because I believe so heavily in the message and how it impacts our society. And so The Go-Giver by Bob Berg, I'm going to send it to you 2 guys, and I'll send it to 10 listeners who just message me on LinkedIn. If we're already connected, just message me. And if we're not connected, send me a connection request with a note that says, please send me the book, and I will send them out, because it is, my daughter's read it. My son hasn't yet read it. My other daughter hasn't yet read it. They're just not old enough. But I've given away, if I had to guess, 50 copies of the book. The first year I read it, I gave away 25 copies on LinkedIn to just people who wanted to read it at the holidays. And to me, it's an amazing message. Bob Berg did just a spectacular job with the book. And it specifically to people who are in sales, it is really a tremendous read.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. And we do appreciate the offer to send the book as well. And I'll take you up on that.
Yeah.
And I look forward to reading the book and garnering insights from it. So
For sure.
Awesome.
So now it brings us to the next question of how much more you're willing to give. So
What do you got?
we have the CRE treasure chest. It's just a repository of things that other people of our guests that came on, they gave. It's a Excel spreadsheet, a PDF, a link to an ebook, or a link to your website, some of the information or resources that you might have on there. It's just simple links or something. So the ask today is, what are you willing to give to the treasure chest here?
Here's what I'll do, which I think might be more interesting. I'll give you guys choice A, choice B.
Okay.
Choice A, I'll give you some business related CBRE report, blah, 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 something you guys pick. You want an office report, I'll send it to you. Choice B, if you wait a week, I will pick 10 of my old blog posts that say lessons for young brokers from. I'll put it in a PDF. I'll send it to you and you can put it up.
that sounds
B.
the best option, I would say.
Yeah.
100%.
It eventually, at the end of my run, there will be a book, a self-published book. It will be all of that and more. And so I will send you the what could maybe be the preview of a book later on, but I will send you 10 of my favorites from when I had a blog, which is my blog is now defunct, but I will send you in a PDF different articles that were up on that blog with different lessons.
Amazing.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
game changing. Yeah. And
We
I think
appreciate
I think there's a lot of people in our audience that are going to gain value from that. So if you guys are watching this, definitely please download that. I think you're going to gain a lot of insights from it. So again, Jeremy, we greatly appreciate your time. If someone wanted to get in contact with you, whether it's related to getting the book that you were just referencing or just connecting with you to learn more or follow you on LinkedIn, how would you like them to connect?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn is the easiest. I mean, it's certainly, if you're watching this on video, I think you see my name, Jeremy Neuer. If you're just listening, it's Neuer. I promise you that there's not that many of us, and there's certainly not less of us that are named Jeremy. So, if you just type in, if you Google me, Jeremy Neuer, CBRE, it's pretty easy to find me. And it was a pleasure to speak to you guys today. It was a lot of fun. I hope it was mildly entertaining and somewhat informative.
No, it was both. It was both very
yeah.
much so. And I know our audience gained a lot of value from this. So again, thank you so much. If you guys are listening to this in a podcast format, whether that's Apple or Spotify or whatever, please feel free to leave us a 5-star review. It greatly has increased our downloads significantly over the last 2 months, like 100% increase in downloads just over the last 2 months because you guys did decide to leave us a 5-star review. So take a minute right now and just leave us a 5-star review. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, we would greatly appreciate it if you could like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. It ensures more and more people can hear this message. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you all next time.